Crowell, we're live. Finally. Hey, sorry folks for being a little bit late. Nicole is breaking in a new machine there, and it bucked her off a few times, but she's back on the horse now, and it is streaming over both channels to you now over Facebook on our ABT page. You may be watching us, or you may be watching us on the ABT Tournament's YouTube channel. No matter where you're from in Australia, welcome to episode 12 of Lockdown Live. Now, in our promo earlier this afternoon, we were saying that we wanted to work out what to call the show once we were all out of lockdown. And is it going to be ABT Live or Tournaments Live or something? Victorians, thanks very much. We can procrastinate that for another few months now, maybe, because our poor brothers down there, although they can still fish, they're back into a lockdown. So all the best to the guys down there. Do the right thing. Let's get this thing back under control, and we can fish tournaments down there as well as in the rest of Australia. And that's the big news, of course, from ABT, is we are back on the horse as well. We're running tournaments from this Sunday. On Sunday we have the Green Energy Bass Electric qualifier at Hinds Dam. We have, I think, nearly a total field. The entries are closed now. I think we've filled all slots apart from one boat. And there are some conditions imposed on us, some COVID conditions as to run it, but hey, we're happy to be back on the water again. Speaking of where you're from in Australia, let us know where you're from. We've got some great prizes happening tonight. The Where Are You From prize is pretty cool. We've got Jason Ehrlich on the show, AFC and ABT angler, and we found one of his old mint condition jerseys in the archive. He was Team Netspace Broadband in Series 2. We've got a hat and a jersey here. Let us know where you're from in Australia. Give us a suburb, give us a state. We want to know where our viewers are from. We can reward you with one of these great prizes. As well as that jersey, there is a great Costa pack, I think, going with it. If there's not, we're going to make a Costa pack up to go with it. Some glass cleaners, some Costa stickers, some sunglass holders. Plenty of great prizes tonight. Also on the show tonight, we have Green Energy's Steve Wapham's going to demystify lithium batteries for you. We've got Jason Ehrlich on the show. We've got Triplett from Garmin taking us through Garmin's dominance of electronics recently, and also their fantastic force motor and live scope sounding units. We've got Tommy Slater from Daiwa on board, and we've filtered out all of the crap that's not brim, bass and barra, and we're bringing you just the juicy bits for the ABT anglers. We filmed that when we were in Sydney helping Daiwa with their live stream last week. We've got the Merck Show Us Your Boat segment with Mick Colatouris on tonight, and finishing off, we've got a bit of a review on the Garmin Force Electric that we put together when we were in Tassie. But back to the events. Hinds event this weekend, the electric, don't try and enter it. We have to finalise some lists, work out our capacities, and we have, I think, 20-something boats on the water, some of them with one person, some with two people in. Those guys are going to be chomping at the bit to get back to the Casino Outdoors Bass Electric Series. The guys from Green Energy are going to be there, so if you've got questions about lithiums down there, they can sort you out. The next exciting event we're coming up after that is the Wivenhoe Eco Gear Qualifier on Wivenhoe Dam. Now, this lake has got the potential to kick out ABT's biggest ever limit, especially since you can now bring in 5 fish shared weight. Now, those entries are open. I had a few messages just earlier today. Is entry still open? We'll take entries through until early to mid next week. When we get an even number at that point, we'll close them off, and we're going to see everyone to do a virtual briefing for that event. We're going to go through how that happens a little bit time. Of course, after that, we've got the Garmin Bribie Island Brim Qualifier. Currently, there's 29 boaters, 30 non-boaters entered for Wivenhoe. We've got 17 boaters and 16 non-boaters entered for Bribie. The Brim Qualifier. A few Victorians have had to pull out, and sorry again, guys, but that's what we have to work with at the moment. Both of those events, I think, are going to fill very nicely because there's a lot of guys out there fishing at the moment, and a lot of guys missing their tournament fishing. One of the things we've had to do to keep tournaments going is we have to be very COVID safe. Now, you'll see it splattered over all of the calendars and event sheets on the ABT website. We've got our COVID safe info on the ABT site. Now, you can read through all of those details. A lot of it is dead set common sense. But the one important thing that I want to stress to you tonight is if you come into an event, you're getting packed and you get symptoms of any sort that are COVID related, don't come. I'm not going to penalise anyone. I'll refund you up until the time of the briefing. If you got those symptoms, don't come along. We don't want to be the sport which aids transmission. We're a very, isolating sort of sport anyway. Everyone's spread over a wide area. Let's do the right thing and let's make sure we can keep on running tournaments even while COVID is around. There's a few people said, I've got my border passes all ready to come up to the events. Well, guess what? Queensland changes that system all of the time. The border passes only last for 7 days. So if you've come up and you've already got it, probably throw that in the bin and go and apply for another one. They're free. Just do it the day before you come up, because they do change them very often, and they're going to be quite tight on the border now to make sure that your info is correct. So today is the first day that Queensland opened. We heard all the stories about big lines of traffic down at the border. It's probably going to be fine by the time you come in, but just make sure you got that right permit. Otherwise you end up in the snail line, takes you hours to get through. We talked a little bit about online briefings. We did this for the St Clair event when we did put in some COVID safe rules and regulations. That is in the form of a message that we send to you, which then sends you to a page on ABT where you have to read through all of the briefing notes. And so that you know what's happening, you read what's going on, and then you sort of digitally sign that and send it back to us. And we can check on the list to see who's read it. We need everyone to read it by the time you check in on the afternoon of the event. So for Hins, it's all right. We just all sit on the water and have a quick briefing and away we go. But for Wivenhoe, we'll need you to tick and go through those forms. You might be thinking, how am I going to meet my boater and non-boater? No worries, we're going to post that a few days before the event so you can get in touch with them either over Facebook, we'll give you a phone number. We will make sure that you can hook up with your boaters or non-boaters, and we can do it in a socially distancing way. Now, one point about the digital check-in, you might think, I'm not a digital person. Here's some info. Wally Fay got it done. Didn't he, Nicole? Wally did it. So this is our theory. If Wally can get it done, you can get it done. So give us a call if you have any dramas with it. As I said, the check-in at Wivenhoe will be between 3 and 5 in the afternoon. Joey Urquhart will be running that event. Come along, check in, tell him you're here, spray a bit of sanitizer on him and get off to rigging your equipment. We'll be posting the pairings early so, we can sort out a lot of stuff before we all actually get to the event. I think we're going to have a word from our sponsor. We're going to come back with our first segment tonight where magically Steve Wapham from Green Energy is going to be sitting right here.
What do you see?
Reminds me of muskies.
I love your mind.
They call it a bucket mouse because he's got a bucket mouse.
Wow.
I just want to tell you, I've been slaying the walleye lately.
That is so hot.
Ever bumped the stump?
Suffix 832, the line that changes the game.
Opportunity today. We've got Steve Wapham from Green Marine Lithium, and I've got to get that name right because Green Energy is what you used to be. Steve, you are the lithium battery expert, and I've got a lot of guys watching tonight that are going, should I be upgrading to lithium batteries? A lot of guys have done it already, mate, but welcome to the new ABT studio.
Thanks for having us.
Lithium batteries are something that I've been a big advocate of for ages, and it's always been hard to find someone locally who can give you the good advice, supply your product, and then backs it. And when I met Steve, would have been 12 to 18 months ago, I reckon. I said, that's awesome that you do lithium batteries, but I'm not going to tell my mates about them. I'm not going to take any sponsorship for them until I've got one and I've not busted it. So I've got one of the Green Marine Lithium's cranking batteries in my bass cap, and love it. I haven't been able to break it, so welcome to ABT, mate, and thanks for being a sponsor this year.
No, thank you.
Steve, why I've got you in the studio now is I want to dispel some of the myths about lithiums. I want to talk about some of the advantages of lithiums, and I want to tell these guys watching us tonight about some of the good deals that you've got for them, because if you're sitting on the fence, maybe during COVID's a good time to do some upgrading. Firstly, let's talk about the myths. If I get a lithium battery, am I going to spontaneously combust? Like all my mates tell me it's going to happen.
No, you're not. Our lithium batteries have battery management systems that protect the batteries and the devices from over voltages, surges, temperature, all those things. We use a lithium phosphate or live PO4 chemistry in the batteries, which don't explode.
Yep. So, and more broadly, there are a couple of different battery chemistries you can use to make a lithium battery. Tell us about the bad one.
The bad one is lithium ion, spelled ION. Now that battery is designed to have high energy density, so you can have a very small battery with a lot of power, and that's what goes in your mobile phones and your laptops and things like that.
Yep.
These are lithium phosphate, which don't explode. They're very stable, completely recyclable, and that's why we use them.
You told me before that you could just shoot that thing through the middle and it wouldn't blow up.
Absolutely, you can fire a gun through those and it'll still even work.
You haven't got a gun, have you? Can't do a live test?
Not on me.
No. Okay. One of the other things is the myths is that if I use a lithium battery, no electronics manufacturer is going to give me warranty on anything anymore.
Yeah, that's not true. There has been a myth going around that some trolling motor manufacturers wouldn't warranty lithium batteries on their motors, but as far as I know, that every single manufacturer will warranty lithium batteries.
Yeah, and the one that we're talking about, you might want to name them, but on their American website now it does say that they do.
They do warranty the battery. They do talk about some concerns about running for long periods of time.
Like running it for like 5 hours straight and stuff like that.
At full throttle, yeah.
Yep. And you were saying that that's because, mainly because of the older brushed motor technology, like brushless motors will never have that drama.
No, brushless motors, brushed motors can overheat. Lithium batteries continue to provide the same voltage all the way through, where a lead acid battery's voltage drops as they discharge. So
if you used a brushed motor technology product with a lead acid battery, just the nature of the voltage drop on the battery would protect it from overheating.
Yes.
So I suppose the technologies work hand in hand. The two old technologies work together to not blow themselves up. But the newer motors, and a lot of the newer motors, like the Garmin that's on my boat now, brushless motor, run it all day long, no dramas?
No dramas at all.
Until the battery dies, and that's a long way down the track with the way we've got it. Awesome. Let's talk about the cost. Myth is as well, got to mortgage my house to get lithium batteries. Tell us about that one.
That has been the case in the past. What Green Marine's philosophy is, we're trying to get people into lithium at the same price as a good quality lead acid battery. So, for example, this battery here, it's $1,200. That's equivalent to two 12-volt 100 amp hour lead acid batteries, and a good quality lead acid battery will cost you around about $600 each. So that's exactly at the same price. When you actually go up in size, 24 volt 200 amp hours is actually cheaper to go lithium than it is lead acid.
Well, that's the next thing we need to talk about. Talk about the amp hour equivalence between lithium and lead acid, because most of us running a bass boat, we might have a couple of 100 amp hour lead acid batteries. They're 12 volts each. We mount them in series. They weigh about 80 kilograms, and we use them to power our electric motor. Now, a concern, I suppose, for guys upgrading is that the equivalent in lithium is a 50 amp hour system.
That's correct.
So this battery here, this one case replaces your two 100 amp hour batteries. Explain the difference in how that's metered, I suppose.
Yeah, lead acid batteries, as I said before, the voltage reduces as they discharge. A lithium battery maintains the voltage all the way through to about 90%, then the voltage drops. So a lead acid battery, you can only discharge to about 50% because the voltage available after that is too low to run your trolling motor or anything from that matter. Where lithium batteries, you can discharge nearly to 100% and they provide.
So let's talk about in a practical situation now. If you've got two 100 amp hour 12 volt lead acid batteries in your boat, they weigh about 80 kilograms between those two batteries. It gets replaced with this one box right here. How much does that weigh?
That weighs 7 kilos.
Yep.
I mean, we've had customers say that their 60 horsepower Apple motors actually now, the boat's travelling 5 kilometres faster just by the reduction in weight.
Yep. So there you go. And even if you're nervous about it, you think, I'm definitely going to run my battery out if I run it. If I want to get a 100 amp hour version of this, does it weigh proportionally as much? Is it like 14, 15 kilos?
It is. It's double the cell capacity. There's some minor savings because you still have one battery management system, and the case is relatively the same size, but it's pretty much double, I suppose.
So there you go. Let's talk about, and that's to power your 24 volt electric motor, which is pretty standard on most of the bass boats. Let's talk about cranking batteries as well. I know that in my old boat, I'd have two 40-kilo lead-acid batteries, then I'd have a 40-kilo crank battery because I was afraid that my sounders, my live well, my lights, my hydrowave, all my stuff together would get my main lead-acid battery to a point that would not start my outboard motor. And guys have done that. We've done that on lead-acid batteries. Why is a lithium crank, why is that an advantage for me now?
There's a couple of advantages. A lead-acid battery can only receive about 5 to 7 amps of recharging. The cranking batteries, your outboard, for example, can take 90 amps.
Yep.
So the difference would be if you were to charge a 100 amp hour battery, you'd have to drive 14 to 20 hours before you'd actually fully recharge it, where the lithium cranking batteries will be charged in 2 hours. So that actually gives you extra capacity because you can actually recharge your battery back up to full capacity. With the battery management system, it only gives you the power you need, so they're more efficient.
And I would second that because the one that you've put in my boat, I've only ever recharged it once ever. Whenever I turn the battery on and I turn the boat on, it's funny, the app on my phone goes bing and it tells me that I've got 13.28 volts or something like that in there. And I've never had to do it. The only time I've ever had to charge it is when I accidentally left the sounder on at the back one day and I came back 2 weeks later and it is gone. But I got my little charger, I plugged it in, a couple of hours, she was back to schmicko again. So that is awesome. So we've talked about some of the myths, and the last myth I want to talk about is like the technology inside the batteries. Like the first lithiums I got were a whole series of like AA batteries all strung together on the inside. You don't use that technology in these batteries, do you?
No, you can still buy the cylindrical battery, they call it. We don't use it just for the fact that it's very difficult to make very robust. They're held together by a little plastic, like an egg cup type arrangement, and if one was to break off, the whole battery is sort of ruined. We use a prism cell battery. It's a big, thick, solid, rectangular cell, and it's all packed in nice and tight. So
they all pack in nice and tight together, and there's no potential for them to sort of jolt apart.
No.
And these things can copper flog in the bass boat.
Absolutely. I mean, we fill them with high density foam and fire retardant, things like that. And our aim is so they just don't move.
They don't move at all. Awesome. Now, we've talked a little bit about the weight advantages, and when it comes to the crunch, again, let's talk about the 120 kilos of lead acid batteries most guys would have in their bass boats. What does that system come down to in weight? From 120 kilos for a crank and one of these, what do they weigh together?
I suppose you'd probably, between the two batteries, about 10 kilos. So you're looking from 120 to 10 kilos. That's a big difference.
And that's like throwing one big fat bastard off the back of your boat, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And you all know how much better your boat goes when there's one fewer people in it. Imagine if there's you and not that person sitting next to you, that is how much better your boat performs. So don't underestimate the amount of weight that you can chuck out of your boat while still having all of these performance advantages. Talk about this, you hinted at it before, this power curve. Explain to the guys that don't know much about lithium about the difference in that power discharge curve between the lead acid batteries and the lithiums.
A lead acid battery, as it discharges, the voltage drops till it gets to a point where it can't run the device it's trying to run.
Yep.
Lithium is designed to maintain the voltage constantly to about 90%, where then it starts to drop away. That's actually good for electric motors, to have constant power supply. Drops in power, and if power falls below, motors cut in and out and they can burn out.
Yeah. So they don't like that on off, do they?
No, it wears them out. I mean, it's the same with any electrical appliance. If you have a below voltage, it's just as dangerous as over voltage when it comes to ruining appliances.
Yeah. The lithium, though, so it means if you discharge one of these, and I have the world's best session and I'm using that thing all day, when it drops off, like as soon as you feel it dropping off, you know you're about to run out.
Yeah. Well, with the battery management system, we have a Bluetooth app in them.
Yep.
So you can actually monitor exactly what your battery's doing and how much life. You can even set up alerts to say when it gets to 20%,
let me know, yeah.
Let me know, so it gives you a bit of warning.
And that's all on the Bluetooth system, so if you're an electric motor guy and you're up the back of Hins where there's no service, it still works on your
Bluetooth.
phone. Yeah. And look, it's a cool system. The one I've got on my boat is actually you just put it between the two terminals and the little Bluetooth dongle talks to my phone. Is it built into some of the batteries now? Or?
The storage batteries now, we have them built in. The cranking batteries is a different Bluetooth, because there's also measuring cold cranking amps and things like that as well. So two different apps. One's external. We are looking to put them both in because everyone loves them. They just got all this information about how many volts and watts their motors are pulling, and it really helps them determine distance and what they're doing.
Now, you mentioned before about how quick these things take a charge, and I'll attest to the fact that most guys, if you're a tournament guy, you finish your first tournament day, you plug into your onboard charger or your offboard charger, you plug it in, you go to bed at night, you wake up in the morning, hopefully all the cords are still in and those lead acid batteries have got back up to where they were. I can attest to the fact that with a lithium battery and a high capacity charger, I can come back in, first thing I do, plug the battery into charge, then I can rig all my tackle, and an hour later when I finish rigging all my tackle and putting it away, I go back to the battery, that sucker's already charged for the next day. And then I don't have to have a charger in the boat anymore that's all secure. I can just take the charger off, wrap it up, put it back in the car. It's not getting wrecked with the salt water. And regardless of how good you think your waterproofing is on your charger, you don't want it living in the back of your boat, I reckon. It's extra weight in there and it can corrode. That to me is a real advantage, because I've had a lot of people come to me at the start of the morning and go, oh, my battery didn't charge because someone pulled the plug out, or someone kicked it out, or some local kids pulled it out, or one of your jealous fellow competitors gave it a little bit of a tug on the cord. So for me, that charging time frame is actually a real advantage. And I know that that your chargers, you can buy them that kick out various amps, but even the little one I have for my 12-volt battery, it kicks out like 20 amps.
Yeah, absolutely. Because lithium can charge so quickly, you might as well take advantage of it. The beauty, I suppose, when you're travelling back to base, your battery is going to be fairly full anyway.
Yep. Your cranking battery, yeah.
Your cranking battery is going to be fairly full. The Air Sea Rescue guys, they say the second biggest reason for breakdowns is flat batteries.
Yep.
Now, you can have a perfectly brand new battery, and if you start travel, you're going to flatten that battery because it just keeps on reducing in capacity, because it can only be recharged is less than what you're actually using. With the lithium, it takes so much charge, it always stays at the top end of the charge, which gives it extra life as well. And the chances of you having a flat battery are pretty slim.
Yeah, I must admit, the only time I've flattened mine is when I left the sounder on for 2 weeks, and the charger soon fixed that up. One of the comments about your chargers, I've got that little 20 amp charger. It doesn't feel like a charger. Like, there's no massive transformer in it. I look at it, I just go, is there any middle in this? Like, it only weighs about 100 grams. It's like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, well, they've updated the electronics now. The old school great big magnet and wire thing, that's what weighed so heavy.
Yep.
Now it's all electronic. It weighs next to nothing. It's a bit difficult sometimes to convince people that it's a quality charger because it weighs so light, but it's actually got even less ways to fail now with being electronic.
Yeah. No, when you sold me the charger, I'm like, yep, okay, that's awesome. I hope I never need to use that because I don't think there's any guts in it. When I needed to use it, I plugged it in and bang, it was sucking up those amps. So don't be fooled by how light and how small they are. And that's why I don't want to rig it in my boat. Like, it's so small, it can just go in with my toolkit. It weighs literally like a couple of 100 grams is all the thing weighs. Let's talk about some of the new products you've got. And I've got this one sitting here. I'm pretty strong.
You are very strong.
Tell us about this. This is the ultimate battery power pack, isn't it?
This we designed this originally for golf carts, and that particular battery there is a 48 volt, 105 amp hour battery. Now that would replace 6 batteries in a golf cart, drop straight in, double the capacity, 4 times the life.
Yep.
We are now starting to sell those in the electric trolling motors for those who have got the larger trolling motors. But in that same case design, we put 36, 48, and we can also custom make any design. So if people have got a special particular size they need to fill, we can make a battery because we manufacture them.
And if you have got a business that has made a whole heap of money in COVID and want to make the ultimate electric boat, you can power it, can't you?
Absolutely.
And because you get them all custom made, you can build. If you want to run twin 48 volters on the back, bang, you can run a box that will run those.
Absolutely. And we've got the flexibility of sizes. So we've got a 24 volt 50. We can do a 24 volt 80, 100. We can even do a 12 volt 420 in that same box there.
Wow,
that's a beast.
And that is. So I know that over the last, I suppose, 6 to 12 months, a lot of people ask me about lithium batteries and what I use, and I always give them the punt straight to you. You've been very good at talking to the guys through some of the theory. Hopefully some of this theory has got you up to speed with lithium and the fact that, I don't have to pay that much money to get it. It's got lots of advantages. The fact that you guys are an ABT sponsor means that we're really happy to push all of our guys that want to get out of their old, unreliable, too many connections, lead acid batteries into just this single box, which only has a couple of points of potential failure. You can sort any of these guys out, can't you? Like, you don't mind talking to people one-on-one?
Absolutely, we love it. We like to educate guys on, because there is a lot of myths out there in the market, and we don't really just want to sell people batteries out of the catalogue. We ask them how long are they going to be trawling for, what sort of work they do, because we don't want people to overcapitalise if they don't need to.
Exactly.
And people still the sort of mindset of I need a 100 amp hour lithium because I've got 100 amp lead acid, and you certainly don't need to. You don't have to spend the money.
Awesome. So if people want to, if you want Steve's number, reach out to ABT. We'll pass Steve's details on. But you do have some websites, and if you want to do some basic research, what's the website that people go to?
The website for the batteries is greenmarinelithium.com, and our other website is Green Energy, which is more of a humanitarian stuff.
Yep. And of course, the socials, they're up on the page. Yeah, you've got a Facebook page. You actually go to the events as well. I know on Sunday you're going to be down at Hinds having a chat to some of your favourite anglers down there in the Bass Electric.
Absolutely. We went last year, and we're sponsoring it this year. And come down and see us. Even if you just want to have a chat and look at some products, we're more than happy to.
Now, also, we've twisted these guys' arms into doing some special deals for ABT guys. So I know if you talk to these guys, mention you're an ABT competitor, because give us an example of something you're doing for them.
Well, 24 volt 50 amp hour, which is equivalent to two 12 volt 100 amp hour lead acids. We're doing that for $1,200, and we'll give you a free charger. So any 12 volt products, we'll give a free charger as well.
So there you go, free chargers, which are normally how much?
$450.
There you go. So for $1,200 now, talk to Green Marine. They will set you up with the whole system, and I reckon that you can't do a lead acid battery system for that. So that's fantastic. You were talking a little bit about your humanitarian work. Tell us, it's really interesting talking about those lithium power solutions that you take into some pretty, remote and pretty sort of scary parts of the world, I suppose. You've done it in person.
Yes, 2 years ago now, we'd won a humanitarian challenge with Red Cross, and we won a project where we went to Lebanon, and we powered a Syrian refugee camp for 6 months on lithium solar generator system. Interesting story. This family had 5 children and 2 grandparents. The parents were killed during the Syrian war, and they live in a very 4 metres by 4 metre shelter put together, no power, no running water. So our business, Green Energy Limited, is all about trying to provide power to people in poverty, in refugee camps, and we also, working with Red Cross, hope to provide power in the first stage of response. So at the moment, when there's a hurricane or a war or something or other, they get the basic shelter, food, water, all those sort of things. Now that we've designed this portable solar generator, it can also run off wind and car generation. They can have power in the first round of response. That means they can store food, medicine, lighting, all the things that you need power for. Yeah,
so there you go. Not only great ABT sponsors, but great sponsors of humanity. Steve, thanks for coming into the ABT studio today. Check out their gear, and you'd be crazy if you don't have a chat to them about some of those ABT specials. Rightio, there you go. I hope that's not information overload for you, but we have got Steve from Green Energy. He's on our YouTube channel now, answering your questions. It might have been a sneaky little text to remind him it was on, but he is there, and he is the man that knows all about it. If you've got pricing, warranty, but what can you get questions? He's on there right now on the ABT Tournament's YouTube channel. Also online now, I notice we have got Gordon from Garmin, who's going to be on soon. He's on the on our Facebook page channel. Jason Ehrlich, we saw him sneaking around the YouTube channel as well. Competitions, remember, where are you from? Let us know. We got the Jason Ehrlich original jersey here to give away tonight with a bit of custom merch. Jace, you can't win it. You already got one. But also we've got another comp here in the Bass Tournament coming up, sponsored by Eco Gear. They've just released a new lot of blades. These aren't them. These are the old Norris blades that I've stolen out of one of the Bass Tournament's prize packs that we're not giving away because the tournament got cancelled. I'm going to give these fellas away. And Paul Langley, I'm not giving away the Eco Gear jersey, mate. That's just there for decoration tonight. I'm giving it away to one of the people who can tell me on whatever channel what is the new Eco Gear bait that they just recently released. It's a blade, I'll give you that hint, and everyone who's probably put in the comments down, you can copy their answer, but Nicole is going to randomly pick out someone who names the new Eco Gear blade. We're going to send them a pack of the old blades, exactly what you need. Well, the Norris blades anyway. So get onto that, get onto the Where You're From competition. We're going to have a word from a sponsor now. Come back to you with AFC and ABT legend, Jason Ehrlich, the man who can jump a boat higher than anyone. You'll see it in the next segment.
If you're Mark Healy, you don't just live on the water, you live for it. You get up, get your shades, grab a spear, grab a boat, grab a friend. Okay, take a breath. Hold it. Hold it. Here, hold this. Go, go, whoa. All right, now find something to jump off. It's probably too high. It wasn't too high. Time to get going? Time to keep going. How's that feel? And now this is living. For those who need water to breathe, Costa sunglasses.
What them sons of fishes up to now?
Fellas, I give you the force trolling motor. It is the most powerful, the most efficient on the water.
Yep. Most powerful. We're really in trouble now.
And it's quiet, too. You can't swim here. What a dumb bass.
And here he is. He's one of the last guys we've caught up with, Jason Ehrlich, one of the AFC and ABT pioneers, mate. Good to see you still kicking around the industry, mate. You're still writing for the magazine. You're making a few lures and obviously doing a little bit of fishing.
Yeah, still do plenty of fishing, mate. It's been good since all the COVID restrictions sort of eased in Queensland and been able to get out a lot, and it's opened it up for us guys. We're lucky we can go wherever we want now, so just waiting for some good weather.
Yeah, that's what it's like, mate. And look, of course, you live in, you're still living in Toowoomba, you know, like the heart of Bass Country.
Yeah, so just north of Toowoomba, we're at Highfields, and it's only like 10 minutes drive, so it's kind of good. We're surrounded by bass lakes, like all within an hour's drive, and then, you know, the cod lakes aren't too far either. Like the closest cod lake's Kubi, which is closed. It's 15 minutes, but yeah, so the cod lakes are only 2 hours away too.
Do you reckon those Kubi fish have finally opened their mouth since Carl left and has stopped flogging them to death?
Probably. There might be some new ones there that don't know him.
Mate, one of your home lakes is Somerset, and one of the things, you know, we've read in the magazine for years, we've seen a lot of pictures on your social media feeds. You seem to be the master of those enormous Somerset bass, and we've got a Somerset bass tournament on in probably about 5-6 weeks' time. Are we hitting it at the right time of year?
You have entries closed for that yet? I was going to ask you that.
No, mate, no. We're still actually taking entries for Wivenhoe, which is before it. So we've got Wivenhoe in another week, and then in Somerset in about another 4 weeks, I think it is. So
no, it is a good time. It's definitely the right time of year. It's just a matter of whether the bass are ready to chew at that time. There'll definitely be big bass there. But if you time it normally in August, I reckon it's always around that first bit of really good weather. So that, like, you get some nice warm days. If you get a run of that sort of unseasonably good weather in winter, those bass will chew, and that'll kind of be just like the switch. And if you get these tough winters, like this winter's pretty tough, generally it's going to be a good spring.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm thinking that, yeah, and that normally starts in August, you know, that bite.
Yeah, well, we're hoping we get it right this year. I know last year we were plagued by some really strong westerlies. The last of those winter westerlies sort of got it. But, hey, what's the chance of that happening 2 years in a row, you know?
You never know. It's that time of year, isn't it, that you sort of take a bit of a gamble. But once again, those fish are going to be big. Like, guys are, I don't know, it's just the best time to fish a comp, because I remember when I did comps, you could go out and do that first session, and if you had a poor session or caught no fish, it was really hard to make up ground. But if you go to that Somerset comp, it's not impossible to go out and catch like a 7-kilo bag for one session. So, you know, you're never out of that, really.
Well, mate, nowadays at Somerset, it's a 4-fish bag. So, mate, you can make that a 12-kilo bag now.
Yeah.
Mate, one of the memories I have with you on Somerset is writing a story for the old Fishing Queensland magazine about throwing jerkbaits on the edges, and you know, it's sort of nearly a lost technique nowadays, like that real cold water bite at Somerset when those big bass come shallow. Do you reckon if you went and threw jerkbaits in that tournament, you'd be rewarded?
If you went and threw jerkbaits there now or at Wivenhoe now, definitely. Yeah, I think you'd catch fish. Leaving it that extra month, like in August, maybe those fish will be just starting to drop back into schools a little bit more. You know, they've got that breeding instinct, even though they don't breed.
Yeah,
but I think they'll be starting to, hopefully, like as I said, as soon as that weather warms up, they'll just bunch up. It'll be just like fish are appearing from out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and they'll be bunching up in schools, because at the moment there's plenty of fish on edges at Somerset. It's just a matter of sort of getting the bites, and jerkbaits are probably a good way to do that.
Mate, a lot of people know you, of course, from the Australian Fishing Championships. You're one of our early adopters. I think you started in season 2. explain to the guys watching the show, you know, what the old road trips were like, you know, with that little Carl Jocumsen. Looks like he only just got pubes at that time, mate. He was pretty young and
he probably doesn't have pubes now.
Probably doesn't. No, they're all up on his neck, mate. They've all come up. Look, tell us, you know, those early days of fishing places like Lenthals before it was wrecked by putting Barry in it. Some of those bites were pretty good, weren't they? And those places we visited.
I don't know what it is. I think maybe it's just because you're fishing a little bit closer quarters, but some lakes, to me, they've got a reputation that the bass pull harder, and Lenthals was always one of those. And I think it's because you're fishing that structure, you're using sort of shorter casts, so therefore they play up a little bit more and they tend to get you back into that structure. But I remember that place as just having some really hard pulling bass in it that took a lot of stopping. So I think, you know, AFC days, I was probably fishing 15 or 20 pound braid and 15 litres and stuff and still getting towed up by fish that just jammed you straight back in there.
Mate, you also you won an AFC event. You never won an AFC trophy. Didn't get the name of the trophy, but you did win an event at Glenbourne, mate. Must have been satisfying to do well away from home. Queenslanders tend to fish pretty well away from home, and you did it in that event.
Yeah, when I used to do those comps way back then, like there was a lot of those trends that were sort of starting to develop, like the way the guys fish now. And I guess I just, you know, every now and then you just go to a lake and you do your own thing. And for quite a few years, I just go and fish spinnerbaits in the treetops. So find a deep treetop, especially early in the morning, and just roll that spinnerbait around about 2 to 4 metres down through the treetop. And just happened to have just a super bite. I think it wouldn't have mattered what lure you threw. The fish were just on at the time. And I know that exactly the same time that I was catching fish in one area of Glenbourne on spinnerbaits, Harry was catching them in a totally different area on soft plastics. And he nailed a heap of fish. And there was just like this little half-hour window where they just chewed their heads off. And I don't know if you'd have all that old footage, but it was just amazing. Like, I don't know how many fish I must have caught. It was like nearly every cast was a fish for a little while. And they just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And, yeah, it was just one of those sessions you'd never forget.
Well, I'll tell you something else I don't forget from that time back on Glenbourne, and it is the most epic bass boat jump shot I think we've ever filmed. Now, if I found the footage, and I haven't looked for it yet, if I found it, it's playing in the cutaway now. But just take me through how you set up that perfect bass boat jump shot. And kids at home, don't try this, because this was 15 years ago. You're allowed to do crazy shit then. You're not allowed to do it anymore.
So I think we might have been following the camera boat. So I was really close sort of to the camera boat. They were throwing a big wake, and I just thought I'd cross the wake, and I think I just might have had it trimmed out a little bit too much, and wasn't really trying for the jump shot. But the funniest thing is that Harry saw the footage. I think you guys played the footage back, and Harry Watson saw that footage, and he didn't want to be outdone, so he went for this super jump shot too, except when he did it, he didn't come off too good. He lost his tackle bag out the back and everything. So, yeah, don't do it at home. It doesn't always end well. Don't be like Harry.
And let me tell you that we definitely switch-baited Harry right into that. It's like, let's see what H does when we show him this, and he was just took the bait, swallowed it, and just started head jumping all over the place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, kids at home, like if you own a lure company, you might miss the lures as much as you or I who have to buy them, you know. Mate, some other old footage I've got, and I uploaded it on the ABT YouTube site during lockdown, was of you winning one of the first ever Bass Electric Grand Finals. You took yourself home a nice Stessel boat and Yamaha outboard, mate. It was one of several boats you won through your ABT career.
Yeah, I didn't take much money off you, Steve. I just went for the boats.
Yeah, you just went for the boats that you could then sell for cash, and the tax man didn't know about it. I know what you're up to, Mr. Ehrlich. But, mate, in that same old video that's up there, it's got must be about a 15-year-old Carl Jocumsen. It's got a Chris George that you could pick up in one hand like this.
I know. I couldn't believe that. Yeah.
And, man, it shows you what a veteran you are, because you sort of still look pretty similar to you are now, but Carl was definitely only packing about 40 kilos in his clothes then, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, he's only a little fella then. And he didn't miss much. He'd always hang around everyone's campsite, and he'd be just taking it all in, and it's paid off for him.
Mate, one of the lures that I have in my collection here is I actually have the actual spinnerbait that you won. I think you won the Bajelki-Peterson Bass Pro Grand Final. And I have the actual spinnerbait. The skirt's all disappeared now, but I've actually got your winning spinnerbait in my archival lure collection.
Oh, I was going to say, I was thinking about that the other day, because I think I just put one exactly the same as it in the frame.
Yeah.
Because back then you used to get a frame sort of thing, and you had the badges in it and stuff and photos and, like a little keepsake. It was really good. This was an Ozspin, I think, at the time. Ozspin Baitfish Series spinnerbait.
Yep.
And I can't remember what colour it was.
It was white head.
It was,
I can't remember what colour the skirt was, but the head was definitely
had,
white.
Had like blacky gold in it or some sort of gold in it, gold fleck. And it had tinsel in it, but I used to pull all the tinsel out.
Here we go. It's in
You
a
probably
bag.
went back. You probably went back
Jason
to the
Ehrlich,
dam and used it.
Bass
hold it a bit higher.
Grand Final 2004. I'm just going to pull it out.
Yeah.
It hasn't got a skirt on it anymore. But let's see how accurate your... oh, look, I've got two things here. One, I've got a baby bass tail on a like a dam deep style jig head.
Yeah, that wasn't mine, I don't think.
That mightn't have been yours. Well, this
No.
might have been yours.
That was.
That was there. And that,
See how I used to bend the hooks up in them too? That was actually bent like that on purpose. Normally that main hook would be straight, but I used to put a little bend in it. Yeah.
So there you go, mate. It's your signature, and you know that I'm not bullshitting it now, are you?
Yeah. Yep. That's the one.
So there you go, mate. If you want that, I will happily send that to you if you want to
No,
put
it's
that in your archive.
It's okay. It's I remember the start of that comp, and I was really disappointed in myself because I sort of had set myself a goal, like not to compete against the other guys, but just a goal of what I wanted each session. Like I thought, okay, so I want a 45 centimetre average fish. And I went out in that first session, I can't remember, I was coming like 20th. And I thought, oh, I've stuffed it. How am I ever going to get this back? And then the second session, I went to a big fish spot. I already had one big fish. And I went to this big fish spot where I thought that I might have to spend hours to get the bite, but I knew the fish were big. And when I got the bite, it was like a 50 centimetre bass. I think they were both the same weight, 2.2 kilos, both of the big ones. And as that fish, as I was leading it to the net, I was sort of pulling the rod back like that and leading it to the Enviro net. And just as it got there, the spinnerbait fell out, and I just done the big scoop and scooped that fish up and threw it in the boat. And I was just doing Toyota leaps. Like I looked like a Toyota ad. I was jumping that high. And I put that one in the boat because I don't know, I didn't think I was back in it right at that moment. With the session to go, I thought, I've got this. And yeah, that was good confidence booster.
Mate, and it's like you've done enough tournaments to know when it's your time, stuff like that goes right. You know, when it's not your time, that fish falls off, it turns around and it swims away. But when it's your time to win a grand final, it goes straight in the net and it's high fives.
Yeah. I think there was like 3 hours to go in that session still, and I just didn't fire another cast. I just basically pre-fished, found a whole new spot for the last session and just brained them then because no one had fished that spot.
Well, that's awesome, mate. And look, it's been great to have a chat with a lot of the old time AFC guys through this process. What's your favourite memory from AFC? And I'm going to take out of the equation the tournament you won. I'm going to tell you what my enduring memory of you is. Apart from the boat jump and apart from winning the tournament, it's how you got your nickname, the Colonel.
Oh, right, yeah.
And this is because every time we're driving down the coast with AFC, because the Brim and the Bass guys travel together, every time we went a KFC come up, we'd have a joke. I bet you Jason Ehrlich's there. And you know what? Every second time you love your KFC, don't you? Love it.
Yeah. I think I did, I forget what it was, 72 nuggets and 2 large chips. And I bought it at Kingaroy going to Boondooma one time. And that was to last me for a few days. But it was all gone before I got to the dam. So,
Mate, another thing I remember is we got to a place and you'd actually done the mental arithmetic about how much a bucket of popcorn chicken was going to cost. It was going to cost you $113.
Yeah, it's a lot. Don't ever get a bucket of it.
So, Jace, that was my recollection of AFC, mate. What was your favourite moment apart from all the KFC stops?
Oh, we probably already mentioned one of my favourite moments. That was that Glenbourne session because it was already good, but every cast I made, it just kept getting better. But fishing aside, I can remember when we stayed at Kenya and just all the boys got together for a photo, and it's just one of my favourite memories. And you would never see, like, there's just a bunch of guys in the photo, but you'd never see more animals in a photo. Like, Harry's got his snake. I think there's parrots all over the boat because we're feeding the parrots nuts, and then someone's hanging onto a chook. There's just animals everywhere. It was like,
a menagerie.
Yeah. Well, just those times, just good times with the boys. Yeah.
It seems like we all had a lot more time back then. You know, when I rang up and said, let's spend a couple of weeks filming AFC, everyone's always straight in. Yeah, work will be right, mate. We'll just go and do it.
That's what stopped me comp fishing. It's just work. It's just work nowadays.
Well, mate, I really appreciate your recollections, mate. Thanks for joining us tonight on ABT Lockdown Live, and we appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, Steve.
We know they're out there. And we know we need to find them. We target them for different reasons. But when the line tightens, we all feel the same. We feel alive. The water moves around us, and the world feels far away. We are here. We are fishing. It is a search, not just for fish, but for all things most important. For family and friends. For tradition and tranquility. For conservation and competition. All of us find what we are looking for. Yet we continue searching. We cast, and as the lure soars, our hopes soar with it. This will be the one. They tell us insanity is doing the same thing over and expecting different results. But we are not insane. The fish are still out there, and we are fishermen. We have been since we were young, and will be until we can do no more. And then, when the ice begins to freeze within us, we will make
Here we go. I'm addressing some boxes here to the winners of our first two competitions of the night. We're going to draw those competitions now because we've got some cool other Garmin gear coming up to give away in the next segment. But here we go. I've got the winner of the Jason Ehrlich, and he says it doesn't fit him anymore, but I don't know, he might fit into this thing. The Team NetSpace broadband shirt, the original one. I don't know if he's got any room to put it in his camper or not, but that's gone to Tom Deere. I normally ask for your address now, but I think Tom's going to be at Wapham. We'll just deliver it to you at the non-briefing at Wapham there, Tommy, in a socially distant way, which means I'm going to throw it across the paddock to you. Tom was commenting on Facebook, I think, no, on YouTube. Okay, so and then from Facebook for the Eco Gear one, I've got the blades here and a little bit of other merch, whatever I can fill the box up with. Jeff Rudder, Jeff with a J Rudder, he was commenting on Facebook. Jeff, I need you to send us your postal address. Send it as a message to the Facebook page, Australian Bass Tournaments, that you're obviously watching on, mate. Send us your address, and we are going to get that kit to you. Next segment we have up tonight, and I know he's in the comments. Gordon Triplett is on Facebook, so if you've got any Garmin questions, you can ask him. But the chances are he's going to answer them in this segment here. Let's go and have a chat to Gordo.
What them sons of fishes up to now?
Fellas, I give you the force trolling motor. It is the most powerful, the most efficient on the water.
Yep. Most powerful. We're really in trouble now.
And it's quiet, too. You can't swim here.
What a dumb bass.
Rightio, we've come out to Garmin's Queensland headquarters this afternoon, and with Gordon Triplett, and it looks pretty flashy. We're not going to tell them that it's in the world's fanciest shed, mate, and you are out in the back blocks here, mate, but this is where the hub of Garmin in Queensland, isn't it, mate? This is the place.
Yeah, this is where it all happens from. We've got another little spot down at Logan, but yeah, this is the central for now.
Now, Gordon, we first did a story for Fishing Monthly magazines. I remember meeting you after you used to work for Haynes and places like that. We did a review on a 10-inch Garmin unit, and at the time, Garmin was just starting to hit its straps, make some good quality units. It's one of my better videos, but who would have thought back then that Garmin has turned into such a powerhouse in marine electronics like it is today? Like, tell us how busy you guys are now compared to back then.
Oh. It's next level. It's crazy busy. It's since then I think we've probably added another 10 staff to the marine side of the business. Yeah, we literally can't keep up. It's been that popular with the addition of side imaging was when first did that. So I'd only been in the job like 2 days or something when we did that. And then UHD, and now of course LiveScope is just next level. Force engines.
And I notice when I do a lot of boat tests, I see a lot of boat manufacturers are using Garmin as an OEM supplier. So in the old days, it used to be some Humminbirds, some Lowrance, and a bit of Furuno. But now I reckon 50% of boats, or probably more that I test, come with the Garmin stuff. So you've obviously been active in the back, making sure that these boat manufacturers are putting the good kit in.
Yeah, and I think it presents really good value for them too. And obviously the product's very accepted out in the marketplace, so it makes sense for OEMs or boat builders to team up with us.
Now, Garmin's been a great ABT sponsor for several years. In fact, the Garmin Verb cameras are the ones that you guys have been watching the ABT highlights on for years and years now. They were a great camera, fully waterproof, being able to be powered from a boat. I live stream off them, and I have done so for years. You guys are discontinuing those, aren't you? I'm not real happy about that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they're sort of coming to the end of their life. We've still got a few left, and we'll sell through them and we'll support them. But unfortunately, it's a pretty competitive market.
Yep, that's right. I can understand how it would be hard to make a buck in that market, but rest assured, ABT, we still got 10 of them, and so we're going to be able to still bring you the highlights and do the live streaming that we do. But Garmin, as a sponsor of ABT, been there for a few years now, and I think it's time now to pivot from the cameras, because you're the only one that does cameras now, to this live scope technology. It's something that a lot of you guys may have seen on social media, or you might have experienced it on someone's boat. But we've only had one Bass Pro tournament this year, won by Matty Langford, one of your anglers, and he just says, I'm driving past shag trees, I'm pointing the live scope at them, and I'm seeing the fish that I'm going to catch. That's the difference, isn't it? That instant feedback.
Yeah, it takes all the guesswork out of it. You've got eyes under the water.
Yep.
So you can pull up next to a snag, have a look at the snag, see if there's fish there. The first couple of casts, you're going to see whether they're going to bite. Like, most anglers are pretty tuned into it now to work out the fish's reaction.
Yep.
So you can
see the mood.
You can see real time what their mood is. Yeah.
Yep.
So it just takes all the guesswork out of it. And whereas you might have thrown, 30 or 40 or 50 casts at a snag and then moved on, you can get the reaction in 2 or 3, or even see if there's nothing there and move on. So
that's right.
You're not wasting time throwing plastics or lures at a tree that's not going to produce.
Now, more than just bass, we've seen the Garmin do really well in the Barra tournaments as well. Matthew Mott won an event last year. We were actually anchored next to Motty in an event, watching him watch the scopes, keep an eye on it, throw it in front of the fish, and see, basically watch the fish eat it. So, guys like Justin Nye up at Gladstone, he'll be fishing the Barra Australian Open this year. We've got Motty, he can't keep himself away from the Barra tournaments. Yeah. You've got some really good guys in the right spots developing, I suppose, the techniques to take advantage of what you can see now. And if you want to follow these guys, go and check out Justin Nye or his Gladstone Sport Fishing page, Matthew Mott and his Matthew Mott Sports Fishing Adventures, I think, and also Matty Langford in Australian Sport Fishing Charters.
Yeah, those Ryan Moody and
as well,
and Ben Weston.
Okay, so there are plenty of guys you can check out there. And the cool thing is, these live scope recordings that are lighting people up, you can record them and then put them on the on the social media. So you can't just say my sound is awesome. It's like, check out what's going on here. So the gap I've seen in the market, the reason I'm talking to you at the moment, Gordo, is because there's a burgeoning market of brim guys out there. We fish shallow water, and previously looking at how the live scope worked, it was a real sort of nearly a horizontal thing. In deep water, it was good. Under the boat, behind the boat for bass, cod, barra guys, it was pretty good. But a brim guy might be fishing 3-4 foot deep, 50 feet in front of the boat, and it wasn't really suitable to that vocation until you made this thing, and you made some technology that turned this transducer from looking that way to looking this way. And
That's
it's
right.
and just tell us about how the feedback's been for that periscope mode. It's something that really excites me as a brimmer.
Perspective mode, yeah.
Perspective, that's it.
Perspective mode, yeah. So, yeah, as you said, it used to be a really narrow beam. So it was 10 degrees each side of centre, 20 degrees max, and it was 135 degrees front to back.
Yep.
So we've seen under the boat and a little bit behind the boat and all the way out the front. But like you say, for a lure guy, they need to see more of that.
Yep.
So by turning it side on, we now get 150 degrees side to side.
Yep. And it sits. Does it sit this way or does it sit that way in the water?
That way, other way.
That way.
Yep.
So it sits that way.
Yep.
And it's looking how far like in 4 foot of water, how far forward and to the side can it look?
Yeah, look, you should be in 4 foot of water. You should be able to see probably 20 metres.
Yep.
Something
That's
like
right.
that.
And don't worry, brim guys can't cast 20 metres. So.
That's it. And that's how I sort of explain it to most people. It'll see further than what you can cast with a lure that you're trying to present in that depth of water.
Now, the thing that I'm really interested in is putting this on the Bass Cat and then recording and showing you guys what brim look like in the water, because if you know brim, they're not. You don't go to a flat and there's a brim here, a brim there, a brim there. There's nothing, and then there's 20 of them. So if you can identify as you're going along where those wolf packs of fish are, I think that's a really useful fishing tool. Normally you work out where they are by cast, nothing. As soon as you land near the wolf pack, bang, they're all onto it. So being able to look at it and just go, they're over there, I think that's really exciting. We're going to come back to you with some videos of how the testing of this stuff and that view goes in future months. Another thing that the brim guys are really excited about is the Garmin Force electric motor. Now, I've had one of those on my boat for nearly 6 months now. I'm loving the fact that they're stainless steel. They've got a 3-year warranty in salt water, and they've got that ultra-quiet, brushless electric motor in them. How are you going with that? Are you keeping them in stock? Are Australians taking to them?
We're out of stock.
Out of stock as well.
We're out of stock right now, but yeah, look, there's no point hiding behind it. We've just come off the busiest couple of months we've ever had. It just grows and grows and grows. We've got stock on the water, but unfortunately, because of the COVID stuff and the biosecurity stuff,
takes a long time.
Takes a long time. Yeah, we're like everybody else, stuff's just slowed down. So we'll have it in stock very, very soon. But the Force engines have taken off. Today, I've spoken to guys that have bought today. And guys like Matt Mott and Matty Langford, the feedback we're getting out of them is that they're quieter. And that's a huge thing. Some electric motors are noisy underwater. So the quietness, but the fact that they're getting way better performance out of their batteries. They can be longer on the water. 3-year warranty versus other brands that have got 2 years.
Or nothing in salt water if it's the wrong motor.
So ours are a full salt water engine. So all of that sort of stuff sort of adds up to it. So it's a really good investment. And things like gesture control with the hand
I call it Wii control. It's like you're playing with your Wii.
It is. So all of those things, wireless foot pedal, and you can wire it if you want to, and a lot of guys do want to still wire it. So they are a really, really, really good unit, and exciting times ahead as we develop that range as well.
Now, one of the things that interests me is the fact that these units, and this is the unit I'm going to mount at the front of the Bass Cat, these wirelessly talk to your electric motor. So not only can you control it from the foot pedal, from your remote control, you can also do specific functions from the screen of your sounder as well.
So it's all wireless. So the great part about that is wireless is free. So it's already built in. It's built into the Force. It's built into this. No more to pay. And it just wirelessly links up. A lot easier to actually fit it to the boat as well, so you're not routing wires.
But the transducer still has to be wired. So the transducer wire comes in and the power wire comes in, but you don't need any other wires to talk to your other units or to your to your force.
Yep, that's correct. So, and if you've got multiple units, so say for instance, Matty Mott's boat, he's got 4 head units.
Yep.
He can control the force from all 4 head units.
Yep, I just heard that Matty Mott had 4 heads, so that's all right. we'll run with that. Take us through some of the hardware we need. So for the live scope system, and we've looked at this. This is the transducer. This is the Magic. It actually has to have a black box to run with it. That's one of these. This must weigh about 2.5 kilos, something like that. There's a couple of kilos of weight sitting there. That needs to be mounted somewhere, I suppose, near the front of the boat as well, so it can access that processing.
Yep. So we do actually do an extension. So we do 2 extensions. There's 2 ways.
Yep.
You can extend this 21 pin plug.
Yep.
Or you can extend the network cable.
Okay, that comes out. Yep.
To this. So there is a little bit of manoeuvrability you can do there.
Now, and it's several units in the Garmin range can run this transducer, because you need the transducer and then you need the unit to run. Which models of Garmin can run the live scope?
Okay, so all of the GPS models can run it because it links into the head unit via the network cable.
Yep.
Or in our EchoMap range from the 7-inch and above. So
from a price point, what sort of dollar sounder do you need to take advantage of this system? You know, is it from a couple of grand up, or
not $1,300?
About $1,300 is a sounder that can run this sort of kit. And then this one, the Magic transducer that shows you all the live stuff, a couple of grand.
Yes.
For that kit there. Yep. And of course, you're going to need this one at the end, because this mount is the one that lets you, what does it take? A few seconds for it to go from that
turn it
to look that way.
Yep. So with this, so I've actually had a lot of people say just recently that when you put this on, you lose your, how it used to be when you first bought it.
Yep.
That's not the case. This will do perspective mode.
Yep.
Forward and down mode.
Yep.
You just turn it.
All you do is literally turn. Did you have to do any? You have to hit a different button on the sounder, like a couple of buttons.
You just go into your menu system, and on your Panoptics page, you just choose
which way you go. So literally, you flip the transducer down, hit a few buttons, and away you go. Now the cool thing is, I'm going to have all this rigged up at Bribey, so anyone who's coming to the Garmin Bribey Brim Qualifier, the first of our rebooted ABT season in South East Queensland, please feel free to come, jump in the boat, have a look at it. If it's after a weigh-in, jump in and give it a go, because I think the more people that get in boats and see it, and when I got in boat and watched it happen, I go, that's the gear. This is something that you can see it on Facebook, or you can see the social media posts with it, but when you're pointing it at something that's in front of you, that's when the mind gets blown, isn't it?
Yeah, and like when you start to see the reactions of fish real time, like none of us have ever had that before, and it's crazy how it just produces. It turns an ordinary fishing day into a very productive fishing day.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I know I was mean a few weeks ago on Lockdown Live. I said, if you want to win a live scope system, hang around till after the break. Of course, I didn't give away a live scope system, but everyone was frothing about it. The awesome news is today is you still can't win one of these, but we've got some great Garmin apparel, we've got some shirts and hats. So I think the way to run that mechanic of that comp is if you were to have any of these Garmin head units to run your live scope system, write in the comments what unit you would use. For instance, this one here is a GPS map 8412XSV, but it could be anyone. It could be the one that's on your boat at the moment, or one you just go and Google in the break. So Gordo, thanks for having us around this afternoon. Thanks for being an ABT sponsor. If people want to check out any of the specs on this gear, what's the official Australian Garmin website to go and do it?
Yeah, so garmin.com.au.
Yep.
Jump on there, and everything's on there, and by all means too, get on some of our ambassadors' Facebook pages. Matty Langford, Matt Mott, Ben Weston, Ryan Moody, Justin Nye. Justin's gone nuts with this stuff. Yeah. So some of the shots that he's got of Barra taking lures, and Matty's got bass taking lures. Like Matt's got one facing backwards on his boat, and he's got bass taking lures.
Troll lures, yeah, I've seen that too. It's awesome stuff. You've got a great cohort of anglers representing your product, and mate, really looking forward to taking this on the water and showing you and you guys some brim. Well, there you go. Gordo is on our Facebook page, and he's going to answer your Garmin questions. Remember that competition mechanic? Just put down a head that'll run the live scope, or the one that you use to run the live scope. And we've got a couple of really cool Garmin packs here, actually. They include one of these Garmin shirts, same as I'm wearing here tonight. They've got a hat, got a couple of stubby coolers. No live scopes in there, sorry. You've got to go to your local dealer and see if you can find someone that's got one in stock if you want one of those. Something else we're giving away tonight are these. Check these out. These are the retro AFC armbands. as worn by most superheroes in the 60s and 70s. How good's that? Got a few of those, found a few of those in the archive, and we're putting them in some of the packs tonight that we're giving away. But, you know, after a hard barra day's fishing, how would it be? Whew, that $1.20 was hard to wind in, wasn't it? Awesome. Now, a lot of you would have seen last week Daiwa having a 3-night live stream where they released their new reels, their new rods and their new baits and accessories. Now, we were down there giving him a hand with that, but we took the opportunity to grab Tom Slater, the man behind a lot of those new products, and ask him about all of the ABT relevant stuff. So let's go and have a yak to Tom now. Righto, the ABT Lockdown Live team has had a field trip to Sydney. That's right, Queenslanders are allowed down into New South Wales, and just so long as you can prove you're not a Victorian, you're allowed back home again. I'm a Daiwa at the moment. Been here for all of their launches they've had this week. They've launched their new reels, their new rods, their new accessories, and the man you would have seen in front of the camera right here, Tom Slater, ABT's noted Day 2 Sinclair bass choker. Well, here with mate, you are the chief of developing new products in this joint, and literally you've got a wall full of it here.
Sure do.
But there was a lot of product there that probably isn't in the hitting zone for ABT guys. What we're going to do for you tonight is break down the ABT relevant stuff, and this man is going to take you all the way through it. So reels, the latest thing that's out relevant to our guys was the Luvius, so we've already talked about that on the show.
Covered that on one of the first lockdown lives, I think.
But you have a great accompaniment for that reel now, and it's the world's biggest range of finesse brim rods that we've ever seen in Australia, isn't it, mate? So take us through your pride and joy.
Yeah, for sure. So we did launch a full assortment of in-feet rods this year. So the in-feet model of the last couple of years has been really successful for us. So what we did is we fully expanded it this year. We did 3 price ranges, everything from $189 entry-level, tournament rod, all the way through to the Bee's Knees $499 EX series. So the thing with all the in-feets that's hard to convey over video is just how incredibly light they are.
That's right. We had the scales out yesterday, and these weigh in around the 80-gram mark, which is ridiculously light.
Yeah, insanely light, and that really gives sensitivity. So anytime you can make a really light rod, you're going to make a really sensitive rod. So the lightweight aspect of the development of this was really one of the key considerations.
Now, take us through the colour schemes. I'm sort of on top of what rods do what, but the colour schemes took me a little bit to get my head around. So run us through the reds and the blues.
Yeah, so we, rather than making a rod and just singling it out for a single specific technique, even though we've designed them to be very technique specific, rather than just calling one rod the crankbait rod, instead of that, what we did is we colour coded them. So fast action rods, black and red. Regular taper rods, blue and white. When you're in your local Daiwa dealer, you'll be able to look on the rack. You know you might be looking for a crankbait rod. You know to look for the blue and white in-feets. No matter what the series, all that colour scheme flows through the whole range.
Yep, so colour scheme does not equal price point. Colour scheme equals rod action.
Rod action,
now, the thing that I think within that we need to break down is the fact that even though it can be a fast action rod, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a stiff rod. So some of my favourite rods that I would normally fish a slow action rod for, I'm picking a fast action in the in-feet because it's got that soft tip, but it is very forgiving through the action of the blank.
Yeah, and that's something that we've really taken into consideration with this in-feet range, is they're very finesse orientated, and they're because of that, they're probably a little bit lighter than what you're used to from a standard dial rod like a TD Zero or a TD Black. You pick up a light rod like an LFS or an LRS in an in-feet, it's probably going to feel a little bit softer than those kind of all-rounder series. And that's because this is really geared towards the people that know what they want. They know they want a finesse light rod for whether it's the brim tournament guys or people socially fishing for whiting or something like that. They know they want a light rod, and that's where in-feet's really designed for.
Now, I've fished with your boat for a day and a pile of infeeds like this, but I'd distill down 4 or 5 real key rods that I think suit my sort of fishing, so maybe they suit your sort of fishing as well. And if you asked me to remember what the names of them were, I wouldn't know, but Tommy, run us through what I picked out and what they're specific for. And let's start with my stick minnow rod, because we shot some great stuff during the week.
Yeah, so the stick minnow rod, obviously you've always liked that little bit longer length for the stick minnows.
Yep.
And a very light tip, because obviously those stick minnows are very light. So this is the EX series, so this is the flagship of the in-feet range. This has top-of-the-line blanks, top-of-the-line components, insanely light for a 7'5" rod. So this is a 7'5", ultralight fast, but it's got a solid tip.
Yep.
And I think that's why you lent to it for the stick minnow. Very light tip, awesome for detecting those bites, but just physically really light. But as you say, even though a fast action, it still has some good cushion in the bottom end.
Yep, and because I normally fish, say, 2 or 3 pound straight through fluorocarbon on these rods, I need all the help I can get in the cushioning department. So for me, it's all about being able to make a long, accurate cast to, say, a boat hull or some stationary piece of structure, and then being able to, like, you know, direct a fish out of it. You know, and you're not always in charge with 2 pound line, but this thing, I love the action. They caught a few decent fish on it, and it could tell them where to go.
Yeah, and I think that's the key. If you picked up one of the crankbait style rods, I think you'd find that when you went to lift the rod, if you felt a bite on the drop, you probably would miss a few fish because they're a lot softer through this middle end.
Yep.
Being that fast action, you've got a little bit more power there, and that's going to make you pick up more line because the rod won't deflect so much.
Yep.
So.
No, I thought it was great fit for purpose. Now, the second one, and we've had in the last few years, we've sort of developed some very cranker crab friendly rods, but I think they're now all obsolete because of this little unit.
Yeah, so this was based on that Gekkovision Mebaru rod that you've been using for the last couple of years. What we've done is we've kind of made it Aussie specific. So a 7'8", nice and long.
Same length
as the Mebaru. What we've done, a little bit shorter handle, and just an overall very much a lighter weight construction.
Yep.
And just a little bit more sensitive, a little bit more refined. So that's going to be the ultimate cranker crab rod.
Yeah, and I think it is. It's probably, 20 grams lighter than the Mebaru rods?
Yeah, I think it's somewhere in the vicinity of 12 to 15 grams lighter.
Yep. Yeah. So, and I did notice that in the hand, and I suppose that longer handle helped offset that in the Mebaru rods, but you don't need it in this rod, and that actually felt really good in the hand. I was fishing it on, it might have been one of your exists. It had maybe 5 or maybe even 6 pound Daiwa fluorocarbon on it, and it was a great match, very forgiving with some of the fish that we caught during the week.
Yeah, definitely. And you're like me, you like using straight through for crabs. I love using straight through for crabs, normally that 5 or 6 pound, and that's exactly what we designed this rod for. So put a 2.5 or a 3000 size LT Daiwa on it, load it up with some straight through, and throw some crabs at some poles.
Now, it was no secret that when I grabbed a crankbaiting rod, I ended up with one of the blue models.
Yep.
Remind me which one it was.
That's actually probably my favourite in the range. So this is a Z series. So this is the middle price range. So $329 retail, and this is a 7'4" ultralight regular. So very soft through the butt end, and the Z series is really cool because it's got. You'll be familiar with that if you're an old school Daiwa fan. That's very reminiscent of the old Heartland.
The old
Z.
Heartland, yep.
But what that is now is that's air sensor technology. So we've taken the old Heartlands were made out of like a solid wood. Some models were alloy. What we've done is it's honeycomb carbon.
So very light again.
Super light. That's actually one of the lightest reel seats we've ever made. And putting it on this rod with the stainless steel SICs down the top, but then going to titanium on the tip, has just meant that's incredibly lightweight, and as a result really cast those crankbaits a long way.
Now, you know what got me with this rod is the fact that my old favourite crankbaiting rod that I've probably used for 10 years is a 7'4" Norries trout rod, and it was sort of a very slow action, but it had a lot of graphite in it. It was like the heaviest trout rod you could get. So when I picked this up, it's like, ooh, that action's familiar. The butt is the right length, but the whole thing, it must be 30 grams, I think, lighter than the original one. So from a casting point of view, it was more accurate. It was a bit more responsive, but for, when it come to pulling the fish out, and there's some overlay footage that you're seeing here, not afraid to put a bend in this thing, and it cushions them and gets them out.
Yeah, for sure. So there's actually quite a lot of crankbait specific models. This one, I think we've picked it out as being our favourite, but I have made some I'm a big fan of crankbaiting the washers in the Hawkesbury River.
Yep.
I've actually made a couple of rods for that they're a light action, not an ultra light.
Yep.
So if you like throwing the bigger crankbaits like
big
the
spike
dunks
or something,
or the tournament spikes, or a bit bigger like the tiny blitzers that guys like to throw, those light regular spins in the in-feet ranges are going to be perfect for those bigger crankbaits as well.
Awesome. Now, the other one that we've, of course, got to talk about is Aussies love around 7-foot fast-action plastic rod. I think it's the most popular rod on the tour, and we even found one in here that I liked. I'm a notorious disliker of fishing jig head rig plastics, but this one got me across the line.
Yep. I think you just have never really fell in love with a standard 7-foot Australian spin rod, but this EX702 LFS butt joint 7-footer, and like most of the in-feet rods that are around that 7-foot to 7.6 mark, they're actually mostly butt jointed. So that's when we go back down to Tassie Tour in the next couple of years, you'll be able to rip the butts off these. They fall under the travel limit, and you'll be able to take all your favourite rods down to Tassie. But this particular model, that EX, again, that's the flagship series. So that's got the AGS guides on the tip, the titanium SIC guides down the butt, and that's the SVF Nano Plus graphite with full X45 Cobra shield. So super responsive, super sensitive.
Now, as we've been talking about these rods, there have been some availability dates in the graphics down below there. Generally, when do these start turning up in stores?
So you'll see the first two of the in-feet ranges hit stores around the end of September, and then this EX series should be the end of October.
There you go. Great Christmas present for you guys preparing for the 2021 ABT season. That was not the only exciting thing, even though it was exciting during the week last week. Tell us about the baits you've launched. I know that, well, the live shows are on. Everyone's going, ooh, baits in the background. Tell us the brim and bass specific ones you have here.
Yeah, so really long time in the making. Bait Junkie launched last week, obviously, on the live streams. Fully designed specifically for Australia by us here at Daiwa Australia.
Yep.
A range of soft baits that cover everything from brim and bass all the way up to the offshore saltwater stuff. But probably the two that are going to pique the interest of the brim and bass guys is the 2.5-inch Bait Junkie grub and the 2.5-inch minnow. So little paddle tail, little single tail grub.
Yep.
Probably the two most versatile plastic shapes on the market. And we've really put the effort into making these a little bit different to the others on the market.
Yeah, and I think that's when I was talking to Chris Hickson about it, he said, you won't believe the amount of work which is optimising these things to fish on the jig heads that we fish. It's not just out of an overseas catalogue, it has been Hicksonised and Slaterified to within an inch of its life.
Yeah, for sure. So I was really lucky to have Chris, obviously, to bounce ideas off over the period of development. I bounced ideas off a lot of actually ABT guys around the tour. And like the grub, for example, we've been really careful to design the tail in such a way that the tip of the tail runs parallel to the body. And when I was doing the development over the last couple of years, I was trying every single grub I could find, whether it was in Australia, overseas. And what we found, making some prototypes of this, was when we put the tip of the tail parallel with the body, that was the biggest difference to being able to have a bait that swam on the drop on a lighter weight jig head, which for brim tournament fishing can be the difference between getting a bite and not.
That's right. You want it to be working as it's falling down, not only when it's sitting on the bottom.
Exactly. And I think that all comes down to that, obviously, if you can imagine, as that swims through the water pressure is all hitting that inside curve of the tail. If it was folded over a lot more, you'd have water pressure hitting that front edge, which kind of wants to work against the tail opening up.
Yep.
And that's really, I think, the key difference. But we also made the tail of this just fractionally thinner than some others on the market. So again, that's just going to elevate that tail action.
And that smells just like Hickson. I think he loves the really lightweight heads with those grubs on because it's a really effective tool for him.
Yeah, for sure. And we've been catching heaps of fish on these through the development. One of the big things that we've noticed is actually when the fish eat them, how well they eat them.
Yep.
Me and Chris obviously have done a lot of testing of this, but we mix in an amino-based scent profile to the material, so it is that stretchy, buoyant, we call it Elastamax, and we mix in that amino-based scent profile, and I'm not sure what it is, but there definitely seems to be something, because when they eat this thing, they eat it all the way down.
They get it all the way down. Now let's swap to the little the long little swim bait here. I see there is an articulation in the middle of this, and it suits the way that I love ringing them.
Yeah, for sure. So there is that what we call that skinny waist in the middle of the lure, and again that was this has been a bait that I've really wanted to make for probably 4 years. I love fishing small paddle tails, especially for bass in St Clair and Glenbourne. And this is kind of everything that I've wanted from a paddle tail over the last couple of years. So that skinny waist in the middle really gives that bait an incredible action on the fall, but also it really gives a very strong tail paddle. And I think especially when you're bass fishing in Glenbourne, you want that really kind of aggressive thump. But when you're bream fishing, you want that ability for it to swim on the drop. So it's kind of the best of both worlds.
Yeah, that's awesome, mate. You've got a few hard baits as well. Some of the old favourites have new colours, but there are new models in the double clutch there as well. Tell us what's going on.
Yeah, so we did 9 new colours for double clutch. This is one here, Ghost Black Red Suji. So nice bass colour. I can't wait to throw that at Glenbourne and St Clair. But we did a whole bunch of new colours, but we also did one for the Barra Tour at the end of the year. The 115 double clutch, so fully designed specifically for Australia, fully through wide, so nice and durable, big hooks and rings on there straight out of the pack, and 12 Aussie specific colours designed for that Barra market.
And do they suspend in fresh water or salt water?
Suspend in fresh, so there'll be a slow float in the salt.
Yep, happy days, and that's exactly how the guys like fishing them. One more I think we have here, we have a top water.
Yep.
You've got some additions to that, haven't you?
Yeah, so we redesigned the slippery dog this year, again, and that falls under the infeet family now. So we're really putting all of our focus on that small hard body lure market into that infeet brand, and you'll see some more stuff from us early next year on that. But the infeet, the slippery dog was the first one to get that treatment. So we've made a new size, so an 80mm version of the slippery dog, but we also redesigned the 65mm. We changed the weight, from a stainless steel weight to a tungsten weight, which has improved the stance in the water, makes it sit much more tail down. And as you're working it, it keeps the nose up to give that little bit of a spinning action. And then the other thing we did is we added a little plastic rattle into the head. So just to give that little bit of audible noise as you're retrieving it, both in the 65 and the 80, and they're going to be here just at the end of October as well.
Hey, just as the top water season's starting.
Exactly.
Well, thanks very much for that, Tom. Thanks for having us down last week for the launches. It was awesome, and thanks for going through some of the ABT-specific stuff so that you guys can have more details on what's coming from Daiwa. Now, all of the new products that Daiwa released last week, they're on the website in the new product showcase. Where do they go to see that?
Yeah, so www.dailafishing.com.au. You can head there. All the products will be up on the website to have a look at. All the new colours of the baits. One thing we did is we photographed all the baits under UV light, all the new stuff, so you'll be able to toggle between the regular bloodworm colour and what we've added to this, which is a bit special, which is some UV. So you'll be able to toggle through all those on the website. You'll be able to look at all the models of infeet rod. We've typed a description on the website which is what that model is best suited for. So you can read through those. You'll know if you want your crankbait rod, you'll know to look for the blue and white ones and read the specs. But everything's on the website ready to go.
Well, that's awesome, Daiwa. Great sponsor of ABT and have got enough new gear to sink your boat.
If you're Will Flack, you don't just go fishing. You get up at 4 a.m., get your motor going. Get this motor going. Sun's up, shades up. Pick it, tie it, stretch it, haul it. Dang it. Let's try this school. Nope. Best restaurant ever. You are going to be back by 3. 3-ish? 6-ish. Bonefish, 2 o'clock. Strip, hit it, kiss it, that's it. Okay, your turn. And now it's a fishing trip. For those who need water to breathe. Costa sunglasses.
Got the boxes out. You know, that means we're going to draw the competition for the Garmin packs. We've got a couple of the packs there with a shirt, some stubby coolers and one of the Garmin hats. And no live scopes, just that stuff. But I need Shane Richards from Facebook and Brian Webb from YouTube. You both said 8412s, which do run the live scope. I need you to send me your shirt sizes. I've got a few different size shirts in there so I can fit you. First in, best dressed guys, send a message to ABT's Facebook page, which is the Australian Bass Tournament's Facebook page. Shane, you know it. You're watching on it already, mate. But Brian Webb, you're going to have to go there and just I want you to send me your address and your shirt size, and I can address that box, put this stuff in and get it to you. remember at the end of this, actually, I forgot to mention it after the Garmin segment, I've got my review on the Garmin Force as the room clearer at the end. That's been a great bit of kit and I've been loving using it. Next, we have a segment sponsored by Mercury. We're going to send a couple of these beautiful Mercury caps to Mick Colatouris from Sydney, who's got a great new, it's either a V6 or a V8 on his Phoenix.
They're strong.
Get the boat outside! Straight to the boat!
Just one more thing before we go to Mick's Show Us Your Boat segment. We saw him, he's on YouTube at the moment, so if you've got any questions about his rig, go and ask him.
Doing the challenge from Steve Morgan and Mercury Marine Australia, Show Us Your Boat powered by Mercury. So this is it, this is a 2020 modelled Phoenix 819 Pro. It's only about probably 3.5 months old. So yeah, we'll start off with the trailer. Easy tow trailer, dual axle. First time owning an easy tow and so far it's been pretty good. Pretty heavy duty equipment on there. Fulton jack and winch, so pretty solid setup there. So I'll show you, that's pretty much it for the trailer. I'll show you the beast. This is it here. Absolutely love this thing. This is a Mercury Pro XS 225 4.6 litre V8. Absolutely blown away by this thing. It is absolutely a powerhouse motor. Sounds incredible. Definitely a head-turning motor, that's for sure. I changed the decals. I got custom-made decals from America to match the blue pinstripes on the boat and the seats and everything. So that's pretty cool. Nice little touch there. Got two 8-foot blade power poles on the back. First time owning power poles, and I would never have a boat again without power poles. These things are absolutely awesome. So like them, the new power poles have got the a black spike all the way through. So just something small and minor that they've changed this year. Spinning a Fury 24 pitch 3-blade prop. So that's what we're doing there, spinning that, and at the moment I am getting about 75 mile an hour by myself, and about 73 mile an hour with two people, but that's obviously without playing around with the jack plate, so we've still got a bit of room to improve there. So we'll come over this way. It's got a 10-inch Z-Lock manual jack plate. So yeah, haven't played around with that too much. That's kind of just set at factory standards. It's got the DD26 steering clamps and also the heavy duty DD26 motor travel bracket. That's awesome. I should have ordered that earlier. So yeah, very happy with that. Inside the back hatch here, got the two deep cycle batteries, 24 volt system there for the electric motor. Kill switch for the trolling motor. We've got the cranking battery there. We've got the two power pole pumps there. And one benefit, I must say, with not having the fuel tank in the back, you can see how much more room we've got to to add stuff or whatever you want to do there. So that's awesome. I love the feature of having the fuel tank, you know, in the middle of the boat. Same with my last bass boat, the fuel tank was in the middle, so we had ample amount of room in here to do what we needed to do and work on. So that's pretty cool. What I'll do, I'll jump up on the boat and I'll show you guys the inside. Alrighty, so inside the boat, just fairly standard storage hatch there. Live wells, pump in, pump out, recirc, all that sort of stuff. Same with the other side there. Center glove box, just keep some bits and pieces, lanyard for the power pole switches and whatnot. So that's pretty cool. These are the new 2020 seats. The only really difference to them is they've raised the sides up here, so they hug you when you're driving, which is pretty cool. One awesome thing about the Phoenix is the net storage. So you just slide your net out here, put it back in there when you need it, and acts as a bit of a drainage point too, for if you get water inside the boat. So yeah, I've got this one paired up with the dual console. It's a removable console, but I would never take this out. I think it's absolutely an awesome feature to have in the boat. You got the passenger side rod locker, so they've got their own little rod locker with tubes, which is pretty cool. So that's for them. Now here's the big boy. We've got a Lowrance Live 16-inch sounder. I didn't, with Phoenix they give you, I'll take a seat, with Phoenix they give you two options. You've got the dual dash shroud, which is what I've got here. So usually they put two sounders on this mount here, or one big single sounder instead of flush mounting. I didn't want to have my sounder flush mounted. I wanted to have on the bracket closer to the steering wheel. So very happy with that. Two SmartCraft gauges, digital and analog, which is pretty cool. Steering wheel, they went with a matte black steering wheel this year, so that's pretty standard stuff. Hot foot, all the little switches there for live wells, navigation lights, or accessories, you know, all the normal bits and pieces there. Cooler, I optioned this one up with a padded cooler because obviously with the dual console to get into the center storage tackle, I kneel on this, so we got this padded, same as the padded front deck, so it helps with the knees, especially with my bad knee. So that was pretty cool. Just some more storage little bins here, culling clips and sunglasses, drop-in trays, got another one there. So yeah, got the cooler there. You got the scissors and pliers and bits and pieces there that you put there, which is pretty cool. Then we just got one big center storage box in here. One good thing with Phoenix is that when you purchase a boat through them, they give you about 25 of these 25 of the Phoenix tackle trays, which is pretty cool. Phoenix logo on it. So you can fit 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14 trays there, and it goes all the way up the back there. So yeah, one big storage tray, it's absolutely massive. So I'm very happy with that. Phoenix also has their own inbuilt ruler. Phoenix usually, I shouldn't say usually, they all have this in inches. So I got my guy who does my wrap for my car, he made a sticker for me and converted it to centimeters, so I can actually utilize this ruler. So that's pretty cool, goes to 45 centimeters. Hopefully I can catch a bream that big to the fork one day, but anyway, slide that back in. Just on this side, just life jackets, cleaning cloths, all the other like safety stuff I guess in there, navigation lights. On this side we've got the rod locker. I took the tubes out of the rod locker, just reason being is because you had to have a rod with tiny guides for it to fit into, and I didn't really like that, so I took it out. Now I can fit about 25 rods in there stacked up, which is awesome. Minn Kota Ultrex, absolutely love this thing. First time I've had an Ultrex, and I would never ever change. This thing is absolutely fantastic. My last Minn Kota Fortrex I had, never had an issue with it, so stuck with Minn Kota again, and probably will for a while. Upgraded it with the G-Force trolling motor handle, which is pretty cool. Got the G-Force, the TH Marine troll jacket. Got the little bounce buster for this to bounce onto. I haven't got the front sounder just as yet because I ordered a custom bracket from Bespoke Technologies. So that should be here in about maybe 2 to 3 weeks, and then I'm putting a HDS 12 Live up the front here. Basically they get rid of this plastic bracket here and they put a metal plate in here, and they actually have a riser bracket as well that comes off there to bring your 12-inch sounder, you know, probably about 2 or 3 inches off this raised up. So that's pretty cool. So I ordered that, so that's on its way. Got a couple of trim switches there and navigation lights. And yeah, so that's the boat. 2020 modeled Phoenix 819 Pro. This boat is 19 foot 8 inches long and it's got a 96-inch beam. Yeah, absolute powerhouse. Absolutely so stoked with this boat. Probably my dream boat, to be honest with you. Ample amount of room. It absolutely flies, very comfortable. And with this Mercury on the back, Jesus, look at that. Absolutely beautiful. So yeah, hope you enjoy the video, guys, of my little walkthrough of my boat. If you have any questions, please feel free to hit me up. I'd be more than happy to answer questions or talk you through it. If someone wants to go for a spin, I'm always keen to go for spins on this thing. So just let me know. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And that's my rig. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hi, I lost a big fish earlier today. Wasn't using suffix. It was about this big.
Look, slow down there, cowboy, okay? A fish in the lobster van, huh? You want your fish. Sorry, honey, that fish is gone.
Always use the best line, suffix 832.
Coming to the end of the show, still need a few names and addresses. Actually, Shane Richards needs your address and shirt size. Jeff Rutter from before, need your address, mate. We can get these prizes to you. I packed them up. I want to whack them in the PO box on the way home. That's how I roll here. Got better things to do on the weekend than to pack these prizes. We do it in between when the segments are running. I think that's about it. Thanks very much for all of our contributors tonight who've come along and had a chat in YouTube. For Big Scotty Towner for keeping it real in the Daiwa segment. Everyone's talking about how tall Tommy is. Just because he's 7 foot tall doesn't mean I'm short. You want to see short? Should see how short Nicole is. She's about 4 foot tall. I'm like a giant compared to her. Let's put Nicole next to Tommy next time. Are you into that, Nicole? Yeah, I'm getting the thumbs down. Yeah, okay. Probably shouldn't have gone down that pathway. Once you pull that ripcord, you're in trouble, aren't you? Thanks very much for joining us all tonight. Thanks for our sponsors that have stuck with us through COVID. Most important thing for you guys to remember, go to the ABT website, read our COVID planning stuff. It's all common sense. You know, no licking each other at weigh-ins anymore. It's not on. We want to help our brothers in Victoria, want to do all the right thing because we don't want every state in Australia to be locked down like those guys. The room clearer for the end of the night. I've had a Garmin Force for about 6 or 8 months now. A couple of months it was locked down, it wasn't being used, but it's being used all the time again now. I love it. Here's my review of the 50-inch 24 to 36 volt Garmin Force. Catch you in a month. G'day, Steve Morgan here from Fishing Monthly magazines, and I've been using cable drive electric motors for the last at least 15 years. Mainly for tournament fishing, sometimes for social fishing, and I've come to love the fact that I can steer a motor forward and backwards, it goes left and right, and it's nearly intuitive for me. Recently there have been some improvements, I suppose, in cable drive electrics. There's the Minn Kota Ultrex, which has like power assisted cable drive. There's Motor Guide's got new ones coming out, but I've got one of the new Garmin Force electric motors here. And I was sort of thrown into it into the deep end. It came out, I got one to try, and I was going to swap it over between tournaments and maybe do some unboxing and some fitting videos with you. We got to the first tournament of the year, one of my mates busted his Ultrex. He said, and I said, look, take my Ultrex, we'll put the Garmin on. So we unboxed it, put it on late at night and got it all going. And at the end of the day, it was a really good test of just how intuitive these motors were. The Force, there's a few major differences from my previous electrics to the Force. First, it has a brushless electric motor, and the brushless electric motor firstly, and the first thing I really noticed, is how quiet it is. When we rigged it up and I hit the button to test it, man, I could hardly hear that thing going at all in the air. When you put it in the water, it's similarly quiet. The second thing that I noticed, I suppose, the difference is the styling and the design. It looks a little bit different. It's got all of the main control panels sitting in the front here, and they're all digital rather than sort of analog style panels. So works really well, gives you everything you need to know right at your feet. If your battery's good, if your satellite is good, and if the wireless controllers are connected. They do come with a wireless controller in a box. This is a little handheld Garmin it comes with. I barely use this one at all because I tournament fish. I tend to use the foot pedal all of the time. This runs on AA batteries. This thing also can run on AA batteries, which is pretty cool. So when we were putting it together at the night, I didn't have to actually, power this to the boat, even though you can power it to the boat. I could throw some AA batteries in and it can connect. And I can drive that, I suppose, from anywhere in the boat. Eventually that'll get the power put on it, it'll get screwed down and it'll sit in place and it'll operate just like any of the other cable drive electrics that I've used. It was a little bit weird. The setup here looks a little weird with the cables running through, but they work 100% perfectly. It's seamless the way it works, and the way it plugs into the Garmin's other ecosystem is pretty cool, and that'll come to you in a future video. This is a variable voltage motor. It's designed to run on anything between 24 and 36 volts. So I'm running it, and I've run all of my electrics for the last 5 years with a 24 volt, which is really about a 27 volt Torqeedo battery, and that's a German manufacturer of electric motors. They make a single 24 volt 106 amp hour equivalent lithium battery, which sits in the back of my boat. And a problem for the old motor was there was lots of talk about the manufacturers wouldn't honour warranty for something which is delivering 26 or 27 volts. The Garmin's cool, it sort of senses the amount of voltage that you're giving it, and it gives you a proportional increase in power. So I replaced an 80 pound 24 volt motor with this Garmin. All of a sudden I'm going a lot quicker and I'm getting the full value, I suppose, for that extra voltage that I have. Initially I found the retrieval of the motor to be really easy. I lift it up there, it automatically sets to the right position, and I drop that down. It's got a stick that you cut to the right length, and then the handle can actually fit in there, so it's ready for you to grab and deploy. Grab it, I just take a little bit of pressure off by touching that, and the motor self-lowers in. It's got that spring dampening, which is really cool. The other thing I found really awesome was the fact that to adjust the height on the collar, normally I would be mucking around and adjusting a collar height here. Now it's a simple, I just undo that collar, down the motor goes, and I do it up, and that's how easy it is. So that's really simple and really intuitive. Because we fish tournaments in both salt and fresh water, the real game changer for me was the fact that this has a 3-year warranty in Australia, straight out of the box, and it doesn't matter whether it's in fresh or salt water. For us, that's awesome. We're on salt water now. We're at St Helens in Tasmania. You can see all of the oyster racks around. Imperative to have a really good electric motor. So we can use this motor with confidence. And I'm going to come back to you in 6 and 12 months' time to tell you exactly how it's faring in that nasty environment. One of the other cool things I found on the very first day that I used this motor is how good Garmin's spot lock is. Of course, spot lock, it's a digital anchoring where I can just hit one button. It tells me on the control here that I'm in spot lock, and it will then hold position. And it does so really, really quietly. We had this going, and I'll show you in some cutaway now. We had it going in conditions where the propeller was nearly coming out of the water, and it held all day. Now, one of the things that I did have to do at the start, and remember I didn't read the instruction book at all for this electric motor, is you do have to calibrate this motor to make the spot lock work. When you hook it up, power it up, it works, it goes left and right, but if you want that spot lock and GPS to calibrate, You have to follow the instructions, get your hand control out. You do a couple of clockwise and counterclockwise circles, and this GPS gets itself locked in, and the spot lock can work perfectly. So what do I love about this motor initially? I love the fact that it's got plenty of power and it uses that lithium battery of mine to 100% of its capacity. I love how quiet it is. It's a really quiet motor, and I love the fact that it has that 3-year saltwater warranty. And when I crank up the power to 100%, that motor's really, really quiet, and it's really, really fast. It's noticeably faster than my previous Minn Kota Ultrex that I had on the boat. One of the things when you're driving it you may find weird at the start is the fact that the speed controller on the side, it's 2 clicks for every 10% that it drops down. So it's not a proportional thing. It's not 1 click for 1 bar up. You can adjust it down in those, say, 5% increments. So it's about 20 clicks from the bottom all the way to the top. But otherwise, my initial impressions about this Garmin Force is they're awesome in Australia. They're about $5,000 retail, so they're not a cheap motor. But if you tournament fish and if you love your technology, and we're going to get into some more of the technology that this thing has in the next video, this may be the motor for you. Garmin, kicking some real goals over here.